おふくかけんは
結果です。
G'day trendsetters, what a pleasure it is to have your ears again for another episode of Everyday Tea and Rice. This is number 3 on chaji preparation. Everyday Tea and Rice is an ongoing column by one of the living legends of tea in Japan. His name is Fukuma Soshin, and he's the practitioner of the mighty Ueda Soko Ryu from Hiroshima. It's an ongoing column, and I'm translating this and offering it on my Patreon in parallel to some other historical documents, so you can see the evolution of tea practice over the last 400 years. So, invitation letters is the first subject he deals with on chaji preparation. I won't read it all, this is a little bit of a longer one, so I'll just read some selected parts and give some comments related to my practice as it exists outside a purely Japanese context. Once you get the date sorted and your invitees, you send them all a handwritten letter, which is a lovely gesture and starts to create meaning already in that handwritten token. It's very seldom these days, I think, that we get handwritten objects and even handwrite ourselves. I know my kanji writing ability has suffered immensely since the overwhelming onset of smartphone use. But it's a bloody good idea, if you can, to write by hand every day and create a practice around that. And I guess handwriting a beautiful invitation letter is an extension of that everyday practice. He says, the invitation must always be handwritten on proper stationery. It should include the purpose of the gathering, such as a celebratory occasion or a simplified tea gathering, the date, the time, venue, and the names of the other guests. There are no rigid rules about the format of the letter, but one phrase should always be included. I hope you will join me for a humble bowl of tea. Ocha ippuku sashiagetai to omoimasu. The invitation is then sent by post. So after you've sent the invitation out, on you go to choosing your utensils and menu planning. Fukuma Soshin continues. Once your guest group is confirmed and the invitations have been sent, the next step is to consider the utensils or dogu you will use. Begin by selecting a hanging scroll that suits the theme of the gathering, and from there, choose the other utensils to harmonise with it. This is a fantastic piece of guidance. I think we wouldn't automatically go to selecting the hanging scroll unless you've been practicing tea for quite a long time. But the hanging scroll will hang in the alcove of the tea room for the first half of the gathering normally, if you're following normal flow of a tea gathering. And so that crystallises the theme in people's minds that they can then reflect upon in the second half of the gathering when it's taken away and just a flower is placed in the alcove in the scroll's place. So we don't have to stick to a hanging scroll of calligraphy. We can use like a painting, for example, a sculptural piece. But a hanging scroll is usually something that has like a bit of timeless wisdom or something for deep contemplation that takes you out of the everyday context and banter to contemplating some of the deeper themes of life and existence. And so anything that sort of suits that would be acceptable, I would imagine. And once you've worked out that centerpiece that draws people down into a deeper rhythm, encourages harmony and a sense of unity in human experience, around that you can start to work outwards for the other utensils that you want to include that will, of course, harmonise with that central theme and the seasons. Fukuma Soshin includes a snappy phrase, 7 parts host, 3 parts guest, which is a saying to crystallise the thought that when you're planning your tea gathering and selecting your utensils, do it 70% for yourself and 30% for the guests. So there's an imbalance there. It's your tea gathering after all. You're sort of opening yourself up, laying yourself bare, so to speak, so that you can draw closer to your guests and have a very genuine, heartfelt time together. So if you think about pleasing your guests primarily, you're not necessarily going to be building any bridges. You're basically just catering, and you're going to stay in the shadows. They don't feel necessarily closer to you because you're not risking anything by opening yourself up and showing what you like and what is real for you at this current time. So 7 parts host, so 70% host, 30% guests. Maybe overstating the fact, but a lot of tea is practiced by repeating existing patterns and trying to please everybody but yourself. A lot of tea practice, I guess, evolves this way. Many people's initial experience can feel quite unsatisfying because you're trying to please everyone but yourself. But this is a good statement here to guard against that. Art is important. Artistic expression is very important. But you should always guard against going off on a tangent and not bringing your guests along with you and kind of losing everybody in the process. You need to meet people halfway. A further note in this section is even if you feel you don't have many utensils, making creative use of what you do have is an important part of the art. I would actually argue that having an abundance of dogu looks a little sloppy and unsophisticated. I always tell my students that your dogu collection or your utensil collection should have a revolving door. So once you get a basic kit, once you get a new piece, start thinking about donating or gifting or selling one of your other pieces to keep it fresh. You might regret selling something one day, but I think keeping things moving makes things interesting, and keeping that search alive, always eyes sharp for different artistic expressions, is a more healthy practice than hoarding heaps of dogu. Fukuma Shihan continues, rather than only imagining the layout in your head, that's the layout he's talking about, the toriawase, the arrangement of utensils and how they look together. It is important to physically arrange the utensils for Realz. Sometimes unexpected but pleasing combinations will emerge. Once everything is decided, write up a kaiki, a tea record, and that's a record of the utensils used in the gathering. This serves not only as a formal record but as a checklist to prevent oversights. I can't emphasize how important this step is. You have some nice surprises when you arrange things for real. So when you get things out on the space that you're going to do tea in, not necessarily tatami, but maybe the table or wherever you're going to do tea, seeing how they look in the space against either the screen, the partition screen that you're going to do it against, the side table, the display stand that you're going to be placing utensils on. They have some nice synergies that emerge spontaneously that you don't foresee or you can't imagine when you're just picturing the utensils, how they look on their own and how they will look together in your mind. Doing it for real will unlock some pleasant surprises and also some disappointments. Some things you think might match for sure actually don't when you get it and pair them together in real life. The importance of this step was communicated to me very early in my tea practice, which I'm very grateful for. My early days practicing with my group in Hiroshima, before a tea event, we would do this. And when things clicked, it was a spontaneous, like a real deep impression coming up from people's belly, just like, oh, that's it. You know, there's like something in the air when things just work together. And everybody could recognize, well, the advanced practitioners recognized when things were clicking. And some of the concepts of beauty, like shibui and wabi and sabi, I got a sense of by hearing people's comments when we were pairing utensils together at this initial stage before a tea gathering. So some people, or not some people, were often in unison. People would say things like, shibui. And like, okay, this is a shibui arrangement. That's what it is. And I have a crystal clear image in my mind of what that looks like. Or, wabi deru ne, like this is a very wabi arrangement. And many people would comment exactly the same thing. And these are quite advanced practitioners in the group that I was lucky to land myself in. So I was quite confident that they were talking from a lot of wealth of experience. And so a lot of my concepts of beauty in Japanese aesthetics have come from these dogu pairing sessions before a tea gathering in my earliest practice group. So after you got your dogu together, then it's time to plan the menu. When you ask someone who has attended a tea gathering what it was like, they often reply, "The food was delicious." But in truth, the purpose of the kaiseki meal is not to impress with lavish fare. It is a light and seasonal meal meant simply to steady the body so the thick tea can be enjoyed. At its heart, kaiseki is a momentary pause, not a feast. How refreshing it is to hear something like that. Of course, we want to do something that's important and memorable, but kaiseki should be an extension of everyday practice. Tea Tale number 61 is a good example of this, which you can get on my Patreon. It's released a few weeks ago. You can see that there's the video and the translation. You want to do something special maybe, but in the end, the tea should be the something special, and you want to leave it be so. If you cloud the tea with lavish fare, as Fukushima Soshin is stating here, well, you're going to get the opposite of what you're intended in a tea gathering. It's a tea gathering, it's not a banquet. So make your food good, nice, clean, but light, so that it can just satisfy your guests, so you get down to the real work of a tea gathering, which is communicating and connecting over that luxurious bowl of velvety koicha, and then talking shit over numerous bowls of uscha to finish the day. That's the most memorable part, is connecting with other human beings. Not to totally neglect the importance of cooking though. It's good fun to be able to cook good food and have people be impressed by your food, but it's most important for a tea gathering that you impress with the quality of your tea and the whole atmosphere around that bowl of tea, rather than just the food. And I was debating about whether I was going to say this story or not and share it with everybody rather than just share it with my students, keep it on my Patreon. But I think it's a lovely story and articulates a lot about this kaiseki section. And some people are quite fearful of having to prepare a meal for other people when they're entertaining them for tea. Quite a strong aversion you can see in a lot of people practicing tea. They don't want you to cook. So somebody very close to what we're talking about at the moment, i.e. somebody who comes from Hiroshima and is a living legend of the Ueda Sokoryu, is very well known in a small circle of sensei in the Ueda Sokoryu for doing something for a long time and then revealing his secret recipe. He was quite famed for this delicious dish that he offered quite a lot in kaiseki, and it revolved around a beautiful centerpiece, which was an egg custard, or a savoury egg custard. And it got pretty famous over time. Over many years that he was serving this dish, people would quite look forward to going to his tea gatherings and hopefully being served this savoury egg custard. And after a long time, being pestered about trying to share the recipe, he came clean and said how he made this savoury egg custard. And the recipe was this. He went down to 7-Eleven, bought the 7-Eleven savoury egg custard, opened the packet, warmed it up, put it in the centre of the dish, put some seasonal vegetables as a garnish, a beautiful clear broth soup, and Bob's your uncle. So there you go. It doesn't have to be so sophisticated and luxurious. Tea is often smoke and mirrors. The next section is on cleaning. It is often said that a tea gathering begins with cleaning the tea garden and tea room. If you don't have a tea garden, I guess cleaning the stairwell or the footpath, the entranceway to your apartment complex, whatever. If you're fearful about what the neighbours think or whatever, well, make your tea practice bleed out into everyday life. Like, impress your neighbours with your attention and care and pride in your even shared living quarters. Go for it and impress the locals. In the tea garden, sweep up fallen leaves, remove any weeds, and clean the leaves of trees and shrubs if they are dusty or soiled. If you notice any cobwebs, be sure to remove them. The tsukubai, or purifying stone basin, the area around it, and any lanterns should also be cleaned. Once you've finished the garden, it's a good idea to walk through it once more to check everything. As for the tea room, begin by dusting to remove any surface dirt. Then sweep the tatami mats carefully, following the grain. So you don't wipe across the grain because you can damage them, you go with the grain. After sweeping, collect any dust and debris, then wipe down the surfaces using a tightly wrung cloth. At wafudo, we wipe the tatami, door sills, lintels and pillars with a firmly wrung cloth. I can attest to that. Don't forget to clean the shoji frames and the light fittings as well. A nice note here is that if you're in a Western context and you don't have the paper shoji screens, make sure you clean the windows. I often forget because when preparing for my early tea gatherings when I was in Japan, there was no windows to contend with. And I would often prepare for a tea gathering over here and clean everything, and then when guests come, I'm looking at the windows thinking, God, they look dirty. Because it was the only thing I forgot to bloody clean. So don't forget to clean the windows. And if you're doing tea outside your own residence and doing it elsewhere, make sure that people know what you're doing. I did an event in Sydney and I was cleaning the place thoroughly before the day of the tea gathering, and the owners of the venue were freaking out, like, what are you doing? Cleaning everything like so well. Like, can you stop? So I just explained to them about, it's protocol to clean everything so that we can serve the best bowl of tea. Like, it's all related. So make sure people have an understanding about what you're doing before you start rubbing them the wrong way. Often forgotten preparations. He talks about charcoal here, cutting it to size and washing it so you don't have any little sparkly fireworks mid-tea gathering. One point I would say is, as an extension of that, not overcrowding your dogu cabinet, it's not necessary to get Japanese charcoal and import it or get it sent to where you are. Like, it's kind of a bit absurd to send charcoal halfway around the world and pay to get charcoal sent to you to do a tea gathering. Of course, if you want to do a demonstration and show off Chana-yu, like, very authentically, that's a great idea. But for your own tea gatherings, like, come on. I think you can try and source local charcoal and you'll be able to find some good alternatives. I just use local charcoal here I get from the hardware store. It works fine. And you save a lot of money. You learn to work with local ingredients. You don't contribute to the absurdity of air travelling charcoal halfway around the world. So things like this, think about how you can make life easier for yourself by being adaptable and using local ingredients. I won't read all through this, but he also talks about ordering things that need to be made in fresh bamboo. So green bamboo, of course, needs to be custom made often for tea gatherings. So he's making a point that you order things ahead of time so you don't have to rush at the end. And kuromoji, the sweet picks that we use to eat our sweets, the thing I would add is that it's kind of a nice gesture to use local material, local twigs, and twiddle them and make nice eating picks for your sweets. People usually get a really good impression from using these things to eat their sweets. I'll read one of the points in this often forgotten preparation section. He says, if possible, try preparing the dishes in advance as well. This is a fantastic idea because on the day of the tea gathering, you're going to be pressed for time. So you don't want to be looking up through recipes and testing things out and having to cut corners or something because you're running short of time. You really know your dishes well so that you can do them very quickly and efficiently, and you know how to control things if things aren't working. It's an extremely good idea that in the weeks leading up to your tea gathering that you make the dishes intended for it a few times so you can work out how to get the best flavours and pull them off quickly and efficiently. After cleaning, sit quietly in the tea room, walk through the roji. This helps not only to prevent forgotten items, but also to confirm everything is in its place. And final word from Fukuma Soshin. When hosting a tea gathering, the host's constant concern should be, how can I offer the most satisfying bowl of tea to my guests? How can I help them feel truly at ease, enjoy the moment, and receive that bowl with joy? So there's a deep meditation. I guess tea isn't as special as it was 450 years ago, when it was a very rare, precious commodity, as expensive as gold sometimes. It's a lot more affluent in society, especially with the current matcha boom, but koicha still remains very rare, and very well prepared koicha in a beautiful curated setting that expresses the host's heart is even more rare. So that's what I think is the meditation, the final meditation here. How can you welcome guests as a pure extension of your practice and meet them in a very human and profound way so that you're able to bond and share deeper themes of life, and for a few hours forget all the bullshit going on out in society and concentrate on what really matters. So that's Everyday Tea and Rice number 3, Chaji preparation. I'll be back for the 4th one in a short while. Thanks for your attention, and make your tea practice an everyday practice.
おふくかけんは
結界です。